It's deja vu all over again. Another slow start in Piscataway that nonetheless turns into a 49-17 pounding of Akron. Is this a down year for the Big Ten and NCAA football in general? Let's get to it. Okay, I hope you all enjoyed a terrific weekend and had the pleasure of watching Rutgers defeat Akron 49-17 in Piscataway. You know, the crowd was kind of small, but I probably would think that the weather or the potential for weather and the forecasts and the National Weather Service alerts and all that kind of cut down on the crowd size. I knew I brought a poncho with me. All the reports said after 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, there would be a 90% chance of steady rain. Never happened in Piscataway. Nonetheless, it was deja vu all over again. Just like with Howard, we got off to a slow start. 7-3 score with a few minutes left in the first half. Nonetheless, it turned out well for us. There were some good things, some positive things, and some things we still need to work on. Let's get to it. 49-17. Offense, my wish list yesterday morning, before the game. You know, I wished for when I talk about a balanced offense, it's not just a balanced, a number of yards and attempts running and passing. It's the passing game allowing to take the pressure off the running game, because we know what we're going to do running the ball with Kyle. But I want to see us to be able to continue to spread the ball around. And I was looking for more deep shots and more opportunities for the playmakers. And yesterday that happened. We had over 500 yards. We had 515 yards of offense. Can't remember the last time that happened. Akron against Ohio State only gave up around 400, a little over 400 yards. Ohio State did get some defensive turnovers to help build that 52-6 win. Nonetheless, 515 yards, another 3 touchdowns and a pick for Ethan. 14 of 23, 230 yards, 3 touchdowns, 6 touchdowns in 2 games. And to show you what a difference a year makes, Gavin didn't get his 6th touchdown until the 6th game last year. And for the entire rest of the year, we only had 3 more touchdowns, total 9 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. So the passing game is much improved. Game didn't start off that way. It started off a little choppy. Actually started off pretty well. We were moving the ball down the field against Akron on the opening kickoff like a hot knife through butter. And then we started to see some things from Ethan we haven't seen before, some glitches. Missing the receiver. We did have that interception that from section 124. It looked like, I think it was Daimir, either didn't run the correct route, or Ethan threw it to the wrong side, the wrong shoulder for that interception. After watching it on replay, and after listening to Coach Yano say it was hit on the play, he definitely was hit. And that brings me to a point that, early on, Akron's defensive front, we know that they're pretty good, was getting some pressure. And we missed on a 3rd down pass again to, I think this was definitely Daimir, where Ethan had to throw off his back foot. A little bit of a rush, but, it was still manageable. And it looked like, the ball was definitely short. But, I'm wondering about the effort on Daimir, because it landed at his feet. If he had stepped up another step, he could have picked it up for the 1st down, and we could have continued and finished the drive. Nonetheless, there was actually another play like that where defensive lineman was right in Ethan's face. Same thing. Had to throw off his back foot it might have been on that fourth down play. When it was 4th and 3, 4th and 4, and they went for it and they passed. Receiver was open and threw off his back foot, and it landed a couple of yards in front of him. And along those lines, wide receivers, early impression. You can see that there was going to be an attempt to get the ball to these guys, but they were open. And they were open all day. Love to see that. We haven't had a wide receiver core where we spread out 3-4 wide receivers wide. And they're running underneath, crossing patterns, running deep, and they're open. We now have a quarterback that can get them there. After a slow start, I think Ethan was 5 for 12 in the first half. Yeah, there were a couple more drops, or at least balls that were catchable. And in the second half, I think Ethan was 9 for 11, or 11 for 12, whatever it was. You could see that the confidence and the rhythm of the offense was building, and those glitches, those misses, were a distant memory from the first half. So Ethan, 14 of 23, 60%. One of my things was he needs to get and be around the 60% mark, and it would be a successful season with a productive, higher scoring offense with a better passing game, and he's over 60%. Let's hope he can keep up that pace. But nonetheless, we do what we do, and the passing game has allowed us to have a different style and type and scheme on offense, and Kyle was Kyle. 27 rushes, 208 yards, 7.7 yards per carry, 3 touchdowns. He has 373 yards in the first 2 games with 4 touchdowns, and the Heisman calls are out already. I know one of the reporters at the post-game press conference asked Coach about that. New York Post putting it out there pretty early. Kyle Monangai needs to be considered for the Heisman. We'll see where that goes. We're going to have some tougher games, a tougher schedule coming up. But if he continues, if he can get 120, 130, 140 yards against the Big Ten, I think he's got a shot. Sam, early on I was looking for Sam. Where was he? Why wasn't he in the game? One of my wish list things was to get him involved early, to take the predictability off those second and short, third and short running plays to Kyle, and have Sam get in there and give some a change of pace, some power, ability to run between the tackles. Being at the game, I wasn't aware of the injury report, so he was a scratch. And this drives me absolutely crazy. Coach Shiano's secrecy about injuries, it's very Belichick-like. And I get it, you don't want to tip your hand, but you kind of like to know what's going on. And it needs to go just beyond, is it a season-ending injury? So with Sam, is it his ankle bothering him again? Is it something that he could miss several games for? If it's not serious, just say, hey, we expect him to be back. We have a bye, a couple weeks. He could see some action, something. So I'm in 124, looking for that change of pace back. Turned out to be Antoine Raymond, 17 carries, 77 yards, 4.5 yards per carry, and a touchdown. Ran hard, strong, fast. Not the 1-2 punch we would have thought it would have been at the beginning of the year, or maybe a little later in the year as time wore on. Guys are nicked up. You want to get a deeper rotation. Nonetheless, our running game did what we've come to expect them to do. Let's hope it continues throughout the Big Ten schedule. But I'm very happy about wide receiver play. On my wish list before the game was, okay, we did a good job spreading the ball around. Let's get more opportunities to the wide receivers, get them in space, and let these guys do what it is that they have the potential to do. Particularly Daimir. And Chris Long had a good game as well, but we'll get to that in a second. Want to see our guy that's supposed to be our number one guy get the opportunities, get him in space, and see what he can do. And he had a good game. There were one or two balls that maybe were more that were catchable, but he did have 4 catches, 77 yards, 19.3 average. And Ethan got him in the ball in stride where he needed to get it to get those big yards and average 19.5 yards per catch, including a big one that kind of I think it was the first half, one in the first half where he got one downfield, 31 yards, put us in the position to extend first half lead. Chris Long, very good. 4 catches, 87 yards. He, including something we haven't seen in a very long time, a 58-yard touchdown. The ball was just perfectly thrown. I'm sitting there watching it, and as the ball is in flight, I'm saying to myself, wow, this ball's going to get there. And absolutely was in a perfect spot, 58-yard touchdown. We did what we want. A lot of people wanted to see and what we needed to do, and I talked about this before the game, more deep shots. You can't just take deep shots just because, you throw a ball up in the air or you throw an interception or you want to make that play and it just doesn't work from the outset. But our deep shots, we took more of them. This 58-yard touchdown was a thing of beauty. Had a couple others. I say the officiating against the Rutgers wide receivers. There was one pass interference called, but there were a couple more, maybe 3 more that holding or interference could be called on, including one into the end zone and one similar to Chris Long's touchdown, throwing it deep. The receiver was pulled off course by holding, at least in my opinion. Nonetheless, wasn't called, but we were taking opportunities to get the ball down the field and get the ball to our playmakers. That's a good sign. Ian Strong had 1 catch, 16 yards earlier on. Ben Black, 1 catch for 9 yards, but he was interfered with. To me, that was really blatant. Just wasn't called. Tight end, Fletcher, 1 pass, 9 yards. Yet another touchdown. That's 2 touchdowns in 2 games for the tight end position. That's more touchdowns from a tight end that we've seen in the previous 3 years. How unbelievable is that? Initially on the play, the officials called it out on like the half-yard line, 1-yard line. After review, it was obvious that he hit the pylon. Ball was in the end zone. He didn't step out. So again, hitting the tight ends, you're hitting them out on the flat underneath. You have a nice safety valve, or as the wide receivers are taking guys deep, you have a guy underneath in a tight end position that can make plays. It's working. Want to see a little more productivity, but that's okay. Got the job done. In addition to wondering where Sam was early on, because I wasn't aware of the injury, Dremel. Now he's back there on kicks. Actually, he had a pretty decent return on a punt, which there was a penalty called for blocking the back. He got like 15 or so yards, but he's not getting much action in the slot. I wonder what's up with that. He, was questionable first game. I don't know if it's sort of like an injury thing. Are we saving him, or is this a philosophical change that we have the guys on the field with speed and size that can make plays? Not really sure about that. So quarterback play, running back play, of course, and what we've come to expect. Wide receivers all played well in addition to the offensive line. They're just doing a really good job. Early on, the defensive line of Akron was getting a little bit of pressure, but it wasn't something that you were worried about. Is what it is. A player down here, a player down there. It wasn't something that was consistent. No sacks, second game in a row. On third downs, we were 6 of 9, and that's something, not to beat them up, but with Gavin, that's something we kind of struggled with, unless it was 4th and a half a yard or a yard, and, we had a Gavin run and push up the middle. Like to see more of that. That's what comes when you have a more effective passing game. You have something now that you can use as a threat to balance out what the defense thinks you're going to do. And, I love what I'm seeing from a mistake or mistake-free kind of game. We, I believe, I have to check the stats, haven't checked them yet. We only had one penalty, or two penalties, I think. We had actually three. One for a personal foul, late hit out of bounds, the block in the back on the punt, and then we were offsides on the kickoff. So the mistakes are not as frequent as they used to be. When I always used to worry about, after flushing the quarterback out of the pocket or after a receiver caught the ball near the sidelines, I was always waiting for that late hit. So the mistakes are less. We're good on third down. And that's a big part of the game. And a part of the game that Coach Schiano focuses on, mistake-free. When you don't turn it over, he thinks that's a great day for the offense, no matter what else is going on. So those are four good things. All right, let's get to the defense. Defense had some good things. And so Finley got the start. And he was running for his life all day. Flushed out of the pocket all day long. Now, one of my worries is, off-schedule play after getting flushed out of the pocket and making first downs, and he had a few of those particularly early. Second half, the defense did a much better job shutting that play down, as well as the offense picking up rhythm and being able to move the ball more fluidly downfield. Defensive pressure all day. Now, we only had 2 sacks. One by Shaquan Loyal and one by Malcolm Ray. But early on in the first quarter, when Finley got flushed out of the pocket, there were 3 or 4 guys chasing him as he was going to run out of bounds. It probably was a 5 or 6 yard loss. I guess there isn't a sack attributed on that play, counted as a running play. Nonetheless, you can see that the tone was started early. Would like to see getting the quarterback to the ground more often. We were fortunate yesterday where in the past, we'd be all around the quarterback, he'd get the ball off, and he would complete a fluke play, or the receiver made a play, got the first down after stopping him on first down, after stopping him on second down. We were fortunate in that we disrupted the offense enough, which was one of my keys before the game, that would force them into mistakes. Now, they didn't have a ton of mistakes. But Finley threw a bunch of balls that were, inaccurate, not really catchable, or the receiver just couldn't make a play on it. So good job with the defense in defending the pass. The other thing they did really well against the run. There was one 70-something yard run towards the end of the game with the backups in there by Simmons. And it was a weird play. It looked like guys were expecting him to go out of bounds and really weren't aggressive going after him to make the tackle. So that gave them 25 rushes, 156 yards. But without that, it's 24 rushes, about 80 yards. That's a pretty good day's work by the defense, or at least the starting defense. Didn't get that. There was they gave up 1 touchdown. Had 1 pick. Overall, again, an efficient kind of defense, but I'd like to see more playmaking ability by the guys up front, getting pressure to allow the secondary to make some plays. There was a missed assignment. Wide receiver for Akron, wide open touchdown. It definitely busted play. After the game, Coach Schiano said in a news conference, talking about longer beam, that that might have been a missed assignment or a botched assignment there involving him. Not really sure. We'll have to see about that. So overall, a decent day by the defense. I'm expecting more. Hit the quarterback more. Get him on the ground more. Turn the ball over a little more, because things are going to get tougher as we head into Big Ten play. If you're not getting those plays and Big Ten players are able to make those plays, it's going to be a little bit troublesome. You have that 3rd and 10 play where you get the rush on him and they make a play. whether by off schedule or just happen to get the ball to the spot where the receiver absolutely has to get it. We want to avoid that. Big Ten players will be able to make those plays. Bullock came in for Akron at the end of the game. He was like 3 for 3 and 13 yards and not much rushing attempts. Running the ball for him, I would have expected a little more quarterback draws and design quarterback runs. Along those lines, Johnny Shepard comes in fourth quarter. I'm not going to say I wanted to see him throw the ball. They probably weren't going to throw it, although third down screen pass is totally within the realm of possibility. Kind of expected that, but they just kept running the ball, and I was kind of surprised that they didn't give a Johnny designed runs, because he's a guy that can pick up those first downs on third and short, third and medium, and they didn't, just kept handing the ball off. So I was disappointed that they kind of hamstrung Johnny, even though the game was 49-10 or 42-10, whatever it was at the time. So when we come to the defense's ability to defend a mobile quarterback, they did a decent job. Rutgers always does a good job defending traditional pocket passes, which Finley is. He just happens to also have good mobility tonight, like Ethan. And they, defend a traditional running game. So defense did a decent job all around. There's some things to clean up, as Coach has stated. Weird thing about this game, we talked about penalties. Akron must have had 10 or 12 penalties. I don't think I've ever seen this before. 4 delayed game penalties. 4. So Akron, if they were going to have a chance in this game to keep it close, they were going to have to not make as many mistakes. And they just kept making them. Interference penalties, illegal procedure penalties, false. They had the whole kit and caboodle. So Joe Moorhead, not a good job preparing your team. And I understand they probably were dinged up, had a lot of injuries. But nonetheless, we forced Akron into a bunch of mistakes, which kind of helped us win 49-17 after a slow 7-3 start midway through the second period. So it's a bye week. It's a time to get healthy. Who's in, who's out? Will the shroud of secrecy be lifted from the Rutgers program regarding injuries? Tyreen, what's up with him? Flip, Wesley Bailey. Wesley Bailey didn't play yesterday. Having him out might have helped us get to the quarterback a little more, because we were getting pressure. Sam, Jayshon, Taj White. Will these guys be available in 2 weeks for Virginia Tech, who, by the way, had a tough time with Marshall? We'll get to that in a little bit. And is all this, these kind of head games and Belichickian approach to the injury report, all just the thing that kind of set us up for the first big game of the year against Virginia Tech to keep guys that Coach knows are probably going to be ready and want to contribute significantly? Or is it legitimate? Hey, these guys are dinged up. We have to see kind of things, like get some backups in there so we can stay healthy and see what we have. Not sure. I'd like to think that part of it is we don't want to take risks with our starters. Akron and Howard we should be able to defeat fairly easily, even if we're missing some guys, and then head into the first big game on the road and take care of business with a roster that's healthy and ready to go. That can go either way. They might be a little rusty. They might be healthier, maybe a little rusty. That might be a tough spot to start. We'll see what happens to that. In the rest of the Big Ten and college football nationally, boy, there were a lot of games yesterday that were close, upsets. The big one being Notre Dame against Northern Illinois. Holy cow, I know a lot of people are cheering about that. We like underdogs in Jersey. We like to see guys that have no business winning a game, win a game, and it was at Notre Dame. Notre Dame doesn't have a tough schedule. They have USC and I think Louisville, and that's about it. But if they get another loss, even with the college playoff being expanded to 12 games or 12 teams, 24 teams, 12 games, this might be a year that, despite an early win on the road at Texas A&M, 109,000 screaming fans, they may not make it. Penn State, everybody's sitting in my section 124 looking at the scoreboard, and Bowling Green, was ahead of Penn State most of the game. Penn State winds up pulling it out 34-27, but lackluster performance. They pull it out, you do what you have to do, you have to win those kind of games. Nonetheless, is the Big Ten going to take a step back? And is this a year that having Michigan and Penn State on the schedule might have benefited us? Not sure. Michigan, they get roughed up by Texas. Kind of saw this coming. Michigan not explosive enough on offense. They really want to be running it for 250, 300 yards a game. They didn't get it done. They lost 31-12. So Michigan, no longer going to be a top 10 team. Probably one of the under-the-radar interesting games that turned out to be a good game. Iowa State beating Iowa 20-19, a typical Iowa kind of game. We're often compared to Iowa. We'll see where they wind up. The game that made me really, I don't want to say happy, but more comfortable about a lot of these coin flip games. Michigan State, who's not very good. Yes, they have a new coach, new quarterback, new system, yada, yada, yada. But they're still a team that's kind of middling in that. They don't scare me. They'll be in some games. They'll lose some games they shouldn't. But they beat Maryland late, 27-24. I feel good about this because I feel we're more talented and better and ahead of Michigan State at this game. And if Maryland, they're beating Maryland, who we've had problems with the past few years, as everybody knows, I feel we can beat either one of those. And that coin flip game kind of moves over to, we probably should win these games. So that game made me somewhat more comfortable with playing those guys. And Wisconsin has not, that Luke Fickell offense is not making progress. They only beat South Dakota 27-13. So, that's a coin flip game that if, that could be a potentially ugly game. We'll see how that one goes. We'll see if Wisconsin develops. Another big surprise, Illinois beats number 19 Kansas 23-17. Now, you can't always go by, preseason polling, first week polling, but Kansas, they were ranked. Illinois beats them, and we play Illinois. It's going to be interesting to see where Illinois is at the end of the year. Now, I have a feeling they'll be better this year, but they're still, I think we have an opportunity to beat them. They're not real worried about that, but it's something to keep an eye on. Minnesota beats Rhode Island 48-0. Washington beats Eastern Michigan 30-9. Another surprise game for Oregon. They struggled again last night, barely beating Boise State 37-34. Field goal as time expired. Oregon might not be the automatic number 2 finisher in the Big Ten. Ohio State seems to be Ohio State now. Let's see how they do as their schedule gets a little tougher heading into the Big Ten matchups. They usually seem to stumble at least once per year. So nationally and, in the Big Ten, this might be a down year. There might not be a clear-cut number 1, number 2, number 3 team. We'll see how things shake out, actually. So over the next couple weeks, as we head into our bye week, I want to see lots of positive health news and injury reports. I don't want the shroud of secrecy, although I know Coach Schiano is going to want to keep things on the wrap until 2 hours before game time. Let's get healthy against Virginia Tech, whose defense is not great. They're going to make some plays on offense. That's okay if we bend but not break, but we give Jones a hard time and get in his face a little bit. He'll make a mistake or two that we can turn into points. So getting some turnovers and just keep doing what we're doing, running the ball down their throat. I think our wide receivers by that game will be a little more comfortable. New system, new quarterback, new play calling. And, again, if we can get 180 to 200 yards, another 200 yards passing, I think we win much more easily than people think we will. There you have it, everybody. A big win at home against Akron. Let's hope we get another big one in a couple of weeks against Virginia Tech. And we will see you all the next time.